Okay, Success Nation, this is your host Michael Nguyen from asiansuccessmagazine.com, where successful entrepreneurs show you how they build companies and achieve success. I'm so thrilled to have one guest today. This is Ming. He's the founder and CEO of the First Movement, and he was named one of the top 10 Asian entrepreneurs by Inc. magazine and has led the agency to numerous accolades, including the three-time 500 fastest growing private companies in America and achieved 5,000% growth in 5 years. And his clients are one of the world's most renowned brands such as Apple, Adobe, Microsoft, and Sony, and so on. Ming, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Michael.
Appreciate
Glad to
that.
be here.
So Ming, are you prepared to inspire?
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for, right?
Great, thank you so much. And okay, I've given our listener just an overview about you. So Ming, take a minute and tell us about you personally because we want to get to know you and then give us an overview about your business.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start with the beginning. I actually was born in New York and I moved back to Hong Kong when I was 4 years old. So I moved back to America when I was 15. So I went to high school here, California to be specific. And that's where I am right now. So I started the business, the First Movement, about 8 years ago in Los Angeles. So we now have LA, Denver, and Hong Kong as three offices. But very much like, I guess most Asian Americans or Asians in general, I actually studied computer science and engineering, and obviously was an software engineer before I started the business. But it's been 8 years. It's been great 8 years, and thanks for all the accolades and pointing out all the stuff that we have very fortunately won. But yes, we have been very fortunate to as a digital agency, work a lot with a lot of bigger brands or Fortune 100 brands around the world. And we basically do digital solutions and think of us as the outsourced product development and design firm for these enterprises. Because they are definitely not built to build as nimble or as lean to build products like we do. So yeah, that's a little bit a very high level of where I came from and what my business, the First Movement, is doing.
Absolutely, we'll talk more about that. We start the show up with our guest's favorite success quote. So it's a way of getting the motivational ball rolling. So Ming, what is your favorite success quote and how do you apply it to your everyday mentality?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, that's one thing that I wake up every day, and then someone told me this. It was Tony Hsieh from Zappos, and his quote, and I try to live by it still every single day, is chase the vision, and the money will follow. So in other words, I started business obviously trying to make a little bit money, but there is a bigger vision there. Chasing that vision is what makes me wake up every single morning to go to work. Yeah, and that's definitely what I try to live up to every single day.
Give us one example of how you apply this quote to your everyday life or in your business.
Sure. So there's a lot of business decisions, especially when you're running a business. Obviously, sales, revenue, and what you make in terms of money is a big influencer. Or someone would say that you live and die with money. But at the same time, I think we have made, as a business, and I personally and business, we've made a lot of decisions, even turning away money, just because it doesn't fall in line with what we want to accomplish as a company, or what I personally want to accomplish. And the vision, when we started this company, is really to change, quote Steve Jobs a little bit, change the world a little bit, right? Be a little bit disruptive. We wanted to change how people look at products and using digital solutions and technology. So there were times that we need to make the tough decisions of this client's core values and their vision of this product really doesn't align with ours. So we had to make the tough choice of actually turning down the business sometimes. And so far, because we're not one of those companies that work with thousands and thousands of clients, we only work with about 10 to 15 very large ones. So by actually saying no, learning to say no to money sometimes, it actually has helped us tremendously, actually.
Excellent. Okay, before I go a little bit deeper, can you share with the audience about the size of company so that they can see the magnitude of where you at after 8 years of
Sure.
working on your companies?
So we are a private company, so I'm not going to share exact numbers, but we are between 6 to say $9 million in business right now globally, and that's the net revenue, and a lot of things that we do is based on that as well. I mentioned I do have Hong Kong, so and Hong Kong is actually a separate business, so that revenue doesn't count within there as well too. So within US, we that's the revenue number we are working with in this year so far. Um, Again, one of the things that we do is because we only have 10 clients, so and these are long-time clients. So to your point about revenue, we actually been able to keep up with the revenue pretty good for the past couple of years, and a lot of the clients that we've been working with for more than 3 or 4 years already, and they're recurring revenue. So,
Excellent, excellent.
yeah.
Okay, I'm curious. You were trained as a software engineer, so you
Yeah,
use a lot of lab brain stuff. But
sure.
now when you come into advertising industry where a lot of people use on the right brains, and how do you transition in that, and how you kind of fit in? Can you help review about your transition?
Yeah, and I think most Asians are actually, at least the Asians that I met, a lot of them are engineers, more left brain to your point, right? Logical, etc. And I was trained that way, absolutely, math, computer science, engineering. But yeah, I think one of the reasons why I've been able to kind of transition or balance my brain, so to speak, is I actually work with a lot of great and very fortunate to meet a lot of right brain people. So a lot of creatives, a lot of designers, and in this industry, when I started in this industry, it's still when I started, it was still very traditional advertising industry. So obviously, it's dominated by right brain people, and not only that, working with them obviously forced me to look at think about things differently, collaborating with them very differently as well. And I think there was an author of a book called Design Goal Methodology. He actually explained something to your point, talk about the third brain. So when you actually balance the left brain and the right brain, you start to see things that maybe only left brain people can't see, and maybe right brain people can't see. And I would say like a lot of business people are kind of in the third brain mentality. And
Can you bring the consequences of the third brain with majority of the business you said, and how does it affect the business?
yeah, so when I started the business, obviously as an engineer, it's very tactical, very practical, very logical, right? When you start doing business, you really have to be a little bit more quote unquote creative. A lot of people don't think business people are creative, but when you're a startup, when you're building a business, you have to be creative. Creative with your money, creative with how you spend, creative how you sell, etc. And then not to mention because our agency, we've been very fortunate, and because of what we do, we actually have to have a lot of left brain people, engineers, developers, etc. And we have to have a lot of designers and creatives and strategists, which is a lot of right brain people. So just working with them very closely and forced to be collaborate day to day, it really helped me kind of open up my eyes of what I, as a business person, how I should approach different challenges. So yeah, so again, just to reemphasize, I learned from I work with great people, and I'm very fortunate to work with a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am. And just through the experience, I feel like I've been able to develop that balance between the left brain and the right brain.
Excellent, excellent. Let's talk about how you found your first client and sort of got into the advertising, the right brain
Sure.
models.
Sure. So very fortunate. I actually started my career in Silicon Valley, and I think I really focused on a technology. And some of you guys might remember Flash. Flash was pretty big back in the maybe early 2000s. So I really focused on that technology as a technologist, and I've been able to kind of personally brand myself in Silicon Valley as one of the quote unquote Flash gurus. And very fortunately, I've been working with, to your point, you mentioned, work with Apple, IBM, Cisco, those big brands, right? And I developed my personal brand before I started the business. So for me, finding my first client was pretty comparatively easier because I already had my personal brand and personal name. So it was just really about me being up there. So our first client is actually Comcast Entertainment. You might remember them as G4 TV, E Online. So very entertainment focused. And they were our first client at the first movement because entertainment Hollywood company at that time they were really looking for a technologist, and that's being my personal reputation and brand, and we were able to acquire them as our first client, and yeah, and they're definitely one of our first marquee clients.
So it's amazing. So you brand yourself before you got into the advertising business. You branded yourself as a flash gurus in Silicon
Mm-hmm.
Valley.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much about I intentionally brand myself.
I
It's
mean,
just I was very,
your skills, right?
I was very passionate about Flash, and I was a big advocate with Flash. I speak to people. I help meetups, and I was very vocal about being the Flash advocate. And I think branding is just that, right? If you are very passionate about something, eventually someone will see you as the quote unquote guru. And that was what happened. I was very passionate about Flash, and as a technologist, I was advocating Flash a lot. And obviously, with Flash was a macro media technology, and that bought by Adobe. So obviously, and it's a great thing, macro media and Adobe are very community driven. So they actually helped me a lot personally to brand myself as well too.
Excellent.
They're a client, so which is awesome. Win-win situation.
Can you help me understand this? So you said before that your first client was G4 Entertainment.
Yeah, Comcast Entertainment,
Comcast
which
Entertainment is in
owns
G4.
G4 TV,
G4 TV. Yeah.
which is a TV channel, E Online, so the E channel. They also have a Fear Network, which is another TV channel. So being in Los Angeles is dominated by entertainment media companies. So Comcast Entertainment is definitely one of the bigger ones in Los Angeles.
Help my audience understand why would the big brand like Comcast and G4 TV pick you instead of traditional advertising agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because we're different. I think everyone's looking for something different. And as a traditional media company, they're always looking for something different or someone that's different. I think in Los Angeles, when we started, everyone's talking about big ideas, creatives, etc. And here I am, an Asian American, which in this industry, in the advertising industry, there's not that many Asian Americans to begin with. And all of a sudden, you have this silicon engineer coming in, and and I didn't talk about ideas. I didn't talk about creatives. I talk about solutions. I talk about technology, which I think they resonated with. They definitely took a huge gamble, giving the business to us. Hopefully, it worked out. I think it worked out for them. But at the same time, I think we were something different, and they were at that time when technology is booming, especially in Los Angeles. They were looking for someone who bring different ideas, and we were able to bring different ideas to them.
Back to your point, I watched your talk on the advertising agency of record, the fall of advertising of the AOR, and it was amazing. And it's great in the point that now you mentioned about the story of Pepsi, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big digital house, the big advertising agency who used to run the ad for about 2 or 3 decades, and then all of a sudden they got kicked out of the house, and some other people jumped in. Explain about that movement, and all of a sudden why is there that movement that people no longer pick their old school traditional agency anymore. They pick something different.
And that's great, Michael. I'm not sure if you're setting me up by saying movement, but that's exactly why I named my company the First Movement, actually, because I did believe that there was a movement that was changing in the advertising industry, And to your point, I think as the internet grew and as digital technology grew in the past 10 years, um, the advertising industry completely get kind of disrupted. And the traditional agencies, obviously how they make money and how they're still making money is media dollars. So buying and selling ads on TV, on internet and magazine, etc., etc. I believe, there was a movement there, especially as the economy of U.S. went through the up and down in the past couple of years. Every dollars became a lot more important, and the return on investment is measured a lot more accurately. So one of the challenges with these big brands is they're used to spending a lot of money with big traditional advertising, hundreds and hundreds of millions. But then they couldn't really measure the return on investment, the ROI. So with the economy as it is, and with the pressure of where the return on investment is, smaller shops like us that are really focused on the bottom line, the return on investment, and we can measure everything we do, became like big competitors to these big advertising agencies. And that was about, I think that was 3 years ago when that story, and it's happening everywhere. And then that's one of the reasons why we are able to work with these big Fortune 500 firms as well too. Pepsi obviously was one of the first few ones to really embrace this movement. But now, if you look at any big brands, the top 100 brands, they all do the same thing now. They still have the big advertising agencies, branding agencies, but they're starting to have these small digital agencies to help them execute different campaigns and solutions.
So you're saying that the movement took place about 3 years ago, back in 2010?
I would just say about like, I think it became very evident 3 or 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and but then even before then, I think the internet, which is obviously 95, but then it really took off after the dot-com crash or during the dot-com. So I think for the past maybe 8 years, I would say, it's slowly changing, but nowadays you see it's everywhere now. Every big brand does that. Every brand does that. And especially when we went through the 2008 kind of economic crisis, that really, really hurt the traditional advertising model.
I guess what was the crossover point, for example, before that movement really became more evident? How did you guys do before that movement?
We
As
did
far
actually
as the growth size, at the growth, and as far as the number of clients.
we did pretty good, and then I think this is, you mentioned in the beginning that we were able to kind of name 3 times fastest growing private companies, and that was obviously the first 6 years of our business, so we actually grew pretty fast. The reasons why, obviously, we were not a big company by any stretch of imaginations. So going from 0 to a couple millions is a huge growth percentage. So that's why the growth was comparatively, in terms of percentage, it's pretty high. But most importantly, I think, is the increase of technology and the allocation of spending. We still did pretty well. Going back to one of my mantras is to saying no to a lot of money back then. We could very easily become another advertising agency and really focus on media buy, etc., which could have made us a lot more money in the beginning. But then I think if we would have stuck with that model, we would have been completely tanked when the 2008 came around, financial crisis came around. So I think we believed in what we did, which is building solutions, and we believe in charging the right price. By no stretch of imagination is cheap, but it's the right price, and we actually deliver something tangible and measurable, and that's always been our mantra ever since we started, and I think that has helped us kind of weather a lot of the storms in the past couple of years in terms of the U.S. economic crisis.
Have you ever come across a point where you have to make a lot of convincing to people or to ad executives about using technology instead of using the traditional one before the movement?
Yeah, especially in the beginning. Especially in the beginning, really. It's because it was, I think, right after the dot-com crash. So the technology company is still finding the ways. Everyone thought that, oh my God, dot-com crashed and technology is not going to last, and all these high-tech companies are going to go under. So there was a lot of convincing in the beginning, especially for these traditional advertising firm or clients that are really used to the traditional media, right? The TV, the radio, etc. But I think honestly, it's not much convincing because people already saw the power of the internet, power of online, the power of digital, and people realize that hey, we can't just talk about creative and ideas. You need to understand how it works and the technology behind it. And I think being, I guess, arrogant for us to only really focus on technology to begin with helped us because we became that when they think about technology, they thought about us, which is great.
Excellent. I just reviewed some of your portfolios, and it's really amazing that you have a unique combination of beautifully designed website and mobile apps. How did you come up with those ideas?
Oh, thank you. Well, it's definitely not me, let's say. It's us as a company. And I think going back to my point that, that's traditional business wisdom, right? And you hire people smarter than you are. And that's pretty much what one thing, a few things that I've done well is to really hire people that really smarter than I am. Just good designers, I have good developers, I have good producers, and I have good strategists. I think it's just when ideas come from everywhere, right? And it comes from everyone. So just getting together all these different talent in one room with a single purpose, you can really do amazing things. And I think that's building these websites, mobile apps is one thing, right? But forming this company and then this company that hopefully we still all love is more than just myself. Yeah.
So in this ROI driven marketing uh, mo- movement, what are some
Yeah.
of the most important metrics that advertiser want you to deliver?
Every client is different, but obviously at the end is sales, right?
Sales.
Everything you do marketing is about driven sales. But there are in the world of digital, there are a lot of things we track now that will lead to sales. That's really hard to measure direct marketing dollars to sales. But in between, there are a lot of things you can measure. So, as simple as how many visits you have, how many returning users you have, how much engagement you have. But when we talk in marketing, we track two big buckets of things: reach and awareness, and reach, awareness, and engagement. So a lot of those things that we do right now is actually really focused on engagement, which is a huge buzzword, especially in the world of social media, is how engaged people are, especially to the millennials. So there are, hundreds of metrics that you can measure within engagement and reach and awareness. But those are the three kind of big buckets.
I see. And so right now, what is your vision? Help the company grow 10 times?
Yeah, and again, and that's a great point. That's the vision, right? The vision is to change the world a little bit, right? My vision doesn't. Obviously, we have goals in terms of revenue goals, size, etc. But that's not what drives us in a way. We like to be smallish. We like to be boutique. We like to work with clients that are obviously the big clients. But the clients like to work with smaller companies, believe it or not.
Really?
Because of the intimacy, because of the boutiqueness, because of their personal attention, and because of, especially nowadays, the innovation. We're able to be very nimble for being comparatively smaller than a lot of traditional agency. But the vision is still, and it's getting there, right? Is to really educate, right, what digital technology can do to disrupt the advertising industry. So we wanted to be a global agency, and with the opening of Hong Kong office, really focus on Asia Pacific. So we have now, North America and Asia Pacific. That's definitely part of the vision, but we really want to be global, but not a boutique in some sense.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. From what you learned when working with big brands, can that knowledge be applied to smaller business?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the big brands have their own pros and cons, and smaller businesses have their own pros and cons. Obviously, when you work with bigger brands, it's a lot more structured, a lot more organized, a lot more planning, and the engagement is a lot longer. From a smaller business, there are some things smaller brands can do that the big brands cannot do. They can change costs, they can pivot very quickly, they can make decisions a lot quicker. But that's obviously, big brands can learn from smaller brands, and small brands can learn from big brands. And just like, big business can learn from small business and vice versa. So yeah, we have a small number of startups that we work with, especially because, being a startup guy, entrepreneur, and being in Silicon Valley, we still have a lot of clients or startups come across our table that want to work with us or want our services. But we are very selective in working with startups.
Let's say, for example, as you know, Asian Success Magazine is a digital magazine on mobile device, and how do I, sort of increase engagement and that lead to more downloads and stuff?
Yeah.
What are some of the key advice that you have for me?
Sure, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's free service for you, right? Yeah, small business, obviously, especially one of the things that we really believe that we do a lot with bigger clients, and even big or small clients should do this, right? First, you have to understand your users. You have to understand who you try to reach, right? Obviously, Asian Success magazine, you're talking to Asian Americans, right? Where do they go? What do they like? What are the magazines they read? What are the cities they travel to, right? So, and those are the things that probably you know better than anyone else. But one of the things that especially I can share with you that millennials, right, which is younger than myself and probably younger than yourself, are the future of the generations. And if you're talking to the millennials, social media is a big platform, of course. TV is probably not a great platform for a small business because it costs a lot more and you can't really measure the return on engagement. So the social media platform, right? Of course, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, all those social media platforms, right? And again, that's where a lot of small businesses will start. But the good ones really focusing on not casting a wide net, but really focusing on the target audience. There is a huge buzzword that I think a lot of brands should start doing a lot more, which is advocate. You want to develop brand advocates. And that's only a small group of people. But take the 80-20% rule, right? 20% of your audience, if they are hardcore fans and advocates for your brand, they're going to do the marketing for you. And a lot of brands believe they're not spending enough time on their advocates. Instead, they're trying to reach too big of a net. What they realize is if you spend 20%, 80% of your time focusing on these 20% of the people that you want to reach, the influencers, right? They will actually be your marketing engine. And they won't even charge you a dime for it.
So, just to recap, spend 80% of your time to build a brand advocate.
Yeah, to focus on the 20% of your brand advocate. That's what we've seen works a lot with marketing, for sure.
And how does the role of technology play into building the brand advocates?
Well, technology is just a tool.
Right.
It's a platform. It just helps you reach them a lot quicker, a lot faster, and you can measure it. So technology, social media is huge, mobile is huge. Any digital technology is huge, right? Online, me and you talking via video conference, that's technology. Without technology, we can't do that. So there's a lot of platforms and tools that enhance that experience. But it also not only enhance the experience, but it actually allow that experience. Without this technology, there's no way I would be able to see you. So leverage this technology, leverage these social media technology, but the goal is not to shout, right? It's not a shouting platform. It's really a platform to engage, to converse, etc. And this is what millennials like, right? They don't like to be told what to do. They want to be asked what they want. And that's one of the biggest things that technology, especially digital technologies, allow a lot of brands to not tell the millennials what they should buy or what they should, attend to, but the technology allow them to talk to and ask millennials what they want, and then you can have educated answers so you can give them what they want, which is what the biggest brands and the most successful brands do.
And exactly from what your talk earlier, you said that the web changed everything, changed their behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely changes behaviors. You think about when we grew up, we didn't even have a computers. Now, my 1-year-old knows how to use a mouse. So it's just, and he already knows how to use an iPad. So it's that the world is changing. The technology is part of what we do now. But more importantly, digital technology allow human and human experience a lot closer, right? And we have to adapt to this world.
Can you talk more about one of your philosophy from the video is that you believe that advertising is based on happiness. Can you talk more about that? Because go ahead and then I'll bring my next point.
Yeah, and that's great. Yeah, advertising to me is absolutely based on happiness. It's actually obviously probably a lot of people have watched Mad Men, and Mad Men is actually a quote from that too. The ideas of that is advertising is selling a perception, it's selling an emotion. At the end of the day, you can sell a pen, like a ballpoint pen. How do you differentiate a pen that you like and a pen that you don't like? Of course, the pen you like might work better, but it also should make you feel better, right? As simple as a pen. So advertising is really about the trick in advertising, which you have quantitative and quantitative. You have the left brain and the right brain, which the right brain is supposed to give you emotion that makes you want to buy that product. And if you feel happy about something, if you feel satisfied with something, the chances you're going to buy something. So in some sense, advertising on the right brain level is really about happiness. But on the other hand, which advertising is designed to become a lot more important as well, is the left brain, which is functional. Doesn't actually work. It makes me happy, but doesn't actually work. And nowadays, advertising and products, we need to have both.
Excellent. Well, recently I just interviewed Brian Wong. He's the CEO of Kip back in San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he has a very unique perspective on advertising, and he used the moment very much in line with what you're saying, advertising based on happiness. He used the moment as the defining as his inventories of delivering the content or the message, instead of you have a display ad or keep bombarding or hurting the viewer's eye all the time. And
and I actually attended the conference that he was a speaker. Obviously, he's a lot smarter than I am.
Yeah.
Obviously, given that he has accomplished a lot more than at a younger age than I have, and he is arguably, obviously, he's one of the influencers in mobile advertising for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely, especially on mobile. Mobile, the attention span is a lot shorter. It's all on the moment. Snapchat. If you think about Snapchat, it's all in the moment. So yeah, I don't disagree at all. From my standpoint, I look at what we do. We have to look at all kind of digital platform, mobile to tablets to online to even kind of interactive display. The attention span is very different. A moment can be 2 seconds on mobile, but a moment on the website could last days or weeks or months, etc. So the definition of moments from a time period standpoint is actually quite interesting. It's probably a separate topic. So.
That's amazing. I love to have spend more time and talk about that moment things and and okay, gosh, okay, what is the proudest entrepreneurial moment that you have with the first movement?
Um, it's funny, like Asian Americans, right? I'm quite involved with the Asian Americans community, and growing up from Hong Kong, having a very traditional kind of Chinese background. One of the biggest things that we were taught, and that's why a lot of us are lawyers and engineers and doctors. Failure is not really an option in some sense. We have a fear of failure. But I would say that I think one of the things, if I've learned anything about entrepreneurship or being an Asian American, is it's okay to fail. So my proudest moment is actually that the few times that I believe that we were on the brink of failure, and we were able to collectively as a company together get us back and actually get better. So I can name actually two moments already. One is back in 2008, absolutely. That was the first moment that we thought we were just going to close, and we were able to bounce back together. And the second moment was actually about 2 years ago. Again, economic influence, etc. A lot of our clients went through a tough time, and it affected us. And I was forced to do a lot of kind of layoff. But now, looking back, that was really hard to do. But now we are even better and stronger, and we are more collaborative. So I think those two moments, weathering the storms and actually got better out of the storm, would be my proudest moments for sure.
What makes you so strong and stay and weather through those challenges?
I think it all goes back to the first question you asked, the vision, the mantra. Really, if you chase money, the moment you don't have money, you break down. But if you chase vision, it doesn't matter whether you have money or not, you always believe so stupidly, believe about that vision. So whether we were making money or not, whether we were struggling or not, believing in that vision and seeing the light in the tunnel is what made us collectively stronger and stay strong during tough times.
Terrific. Can you share with the audience one of your personal habits that you believe to contribute to your success today?
I have a lot of bad habits for sure, but one of my habits, I think I would say, is always smile. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened. Right? As CEO, as entrepreneurs, you have a lot of responsibility, a lot of burdens, a lot of perks in some sense. But when tough times, you have to be the one being the rock, and you have to be one smiling. There was I forgot who told me this, but you can always tell if you go into a war room in a crisis. You can always tell who's going to be the leader, who's going to rescue the rest of the group out of that crisis, and it's the one that always has a smile on the face. So that's one of my I think habits that I've developed during tough times and good times is
Smiling.
Smiling. That's not we're alive. We're alive. We have a job. We might not be millionaires. We might not be billionaires, but we have a house. What's not to smile about? Smile about, really.
Excellent. When you first start, and you said back in your quote earlier, don't chase the money, chase the vision.
Yeah.
How did you break it down your vision into smaller unit so that you can, hey, I hit that goal, so that I don't, even if I don't get the big contract, but I feel better.
Yeah. So, and again, these are not things that I came up with, but these are things that smarter people have taught me, and I've learned from smarter people. Vision is supposed to be really lofty. It's your why. Why do you exist, right? Vision is the why. To break it down to actually what you need to do, you need to go back to the why, and then how, and then the what. Right? So you always start with the why. The how, there's 10 million ways to do that vision, the same vision. And by breaking down, if this doesn't work, try something else, right? But your why never changes. So for me, it was a lot of experiment, a lot of trial and error. a lot of, and fortunately, I have a lot of great, smarter people, mentors that have mentored me along my way, so I can steal their success and learn from the success, and hopefully learn from their mistakes. So of course I made mistakes, but really learning from them what they've done, and in some way copying what they've done, um, really helped me breaking down my why, which is my vision, to my how and what do I need to do.
It's amazing. So you're saying that your why would never change, but there are a million ways of doing that. As long as you have more whys, then it can pump you up all night long.
Absolutely, that's what I believe. That's what happiness is. Happiness is really finding your why in life. Right? Your why can be anything, really. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be happy. You don't have to make billions of dollars to be happy, as long as you know why you exist in this world. And I think that's something that I've been very fortunate and quite frankly spent a lot of time in my younger days figuring out what makes me happy, right? And I'm very glad to say that I love what I do. With or without money, and fortunately with some money now. But yeah, just the why never changes, and
Excellent.
that's yeah.
As a technologist, Ming, do you have an internet resource like Evernote that you're in love with and you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I use Evernote a lot for sure. I'm a social media junkie, so I do a lot of social media, so Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and all that stuff. But I obviously, just like most people, my phone is my life bloodline. So I obviously have a lot of apps. Evernote is one of them. LinkedIn is another one that they have multiple apps that keep track of my contacts, etc. Pocket is another one that I love.
Is that Pocket?
Yeah, Pocket.
Oh, Pocket, yeah.
Yeah, Pocket is another one I love because I read a lot of using like Flipboard or Zeit or any kind of news feed, and I am able to save what I like to read and read later. So Pocket is a great one of my tools in my arsenals for sure. What else? Zeit. I mentioned Zeit. Zeit is a customized magazine for you, and I do that every day. So between all the social network that I do, all the news feed that I read, and between Pocket and Evernote that I keep track of everything, and I was able to get all my knowledge and organize it.
That's quite a lot for my audience to download.
Well, I'm sure your audience would know more apps than I do for sure.
Ming, if you could recommend one book to my audience, what would it be?
There's a lot of books, but one in the topic of Asian Americans.
One book, anything, book that you like, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
So I think one of the things, and I'm just going to look back to my vision again, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. That was fundamentally a book that I read a couple of years ago that really helped me focus. And obviously his great success stories. But there was one book that I really keep referring back to when you talk about happiness in business.
It's amazing that you are the third guest on my show that referencing to this book of Tony.
Hey,
Hsieh.
the next time when you talk to Tony, then you should tell him about that.
Absolutely, I'll try and invite him next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Ming, if you could recommend one guest to my show, who might that be?
Except Tony.
Except Tony.
Except Tony.
I'm working on it. He's very busy.
I know, exactly. There are a lot of great Asian Americans and entrepreneurs. I'm trying to think of William Wang from Vizio.
William Wang from Vizio.
Vizio. He's the founder and CEO of Vizio, obviously the largest TV company. He's a personal mentor for me. And his story is amazing. And obviously his success is almost immeasurable. But yeah, and he personally has helped me a lot from a mentorship standpoint. So,
Hopefully,
and
I
I think
meet
the
you
audience
to
benefits.
to connect me with Mr. Wang sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
One last question for you. How do you
Yeah,
want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as Ming Chen.
Ming Chen.
Yeah, because Ming Chen is not a common name, I guess. Whatever Ming Chen stands for, right? I just want to be remembered as someone that has made a difference and a positive impact to the people that I have met. That's all.
Give Success Nation one parting piece of guidance and share the
Yeah.
best way we can find you. Then we can say goodbye.
The best way that can find me,
Yeah.
that you can find me, um, on my Twitter,
On
on my
Twitter.
link, Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm glued to my Twitter and my LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn obviously it's just Ming Chen, but my Twitter is Ming at T1M.
Perfect.
So
And now, what is the parting piece of guidance that you have for my audience?
and I think I've said that all along already. Find your why are you doing this? Keep remembering why you're doing it, and again, chase that why, right? Chase that vision. Money will come along.
Guess what? You are the second one people saying that. I just interviewed the interview of Hiso Sushis.
Oh no,
Hiso Sushis is from North Carolina, and
Okay.
he's from Myanmar, and he
Yeah.
came to the state with only $13, but now he
Uh-huh.
built like a sushi empire with 300 locations across the states.
That's amazing. That's amazing, and I think there's more Asians Americans stories like that, right? It's you love what you do, money will come to you, and that's kind of the American dream, right?
Yeah, American.
So I think I'm not the only one, and there are a lot of smarter people, more successful people like himself, and I'm just copying the secret. That's all I'm doing.
Ming, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time
Michael.
and your expertise. Your story just amazing, and Success Nation will salute you. And I hope to catch you on the other time, maybe in California in July. And
Yeah, and again, I salute you for what you're doing. We need more of these associations or organizations or initiatives that help Asian Americans to feel that we're not alone. So congratulations, and let me know how else I could help.
thank you so much, Ming.
All right, thanks, Michael.
Appreciate that. Bye bye.
Bye.